Welcome and thank you for subscribing to this toolkit. I'll make this video very short and much detailed as possible. This tool comprises of three key aspects that once you get right, everything will fall in place, and that is the material database, the composition library, and the labor database. All right. So what is a material database? Is where you record all the item of your material. For example, your cement, sharp sand, coarse aggregate, water, etc. How much they cost. The system automatically pulls out all the information stored in your material database for your analysis, both your rate, your material labor schedule, and your labor schedule, right? So once you come here and edit or audit all your material prices, he pulls it out and use it when necessary. Okay, so we have all the prices of your materials listed. Then the second thing is a composition library. What's a composition library? A composition library is should I say the consumption unit or output of every item of work. For example, concrete 1:4 is to 8 has an output of 6 bar per 1 meter cube, right? And a mixed ratio of 1:3 is to 6 has a 5 bags per 1 meter cube. Now, this is a standard minimum, right, that is required. However, site condition varies and project particularity varies. So if you're working on a particular project that you know that, okay, due to the nature of this project, maybe the wastage or other factors that may come into play at the time of execution of those projects, we make this bag of cement to vary. That's why everything here is customizable. You can customize according to your project and according to your need at each point in time. An empirical example is a 1:2:4 has 6.34 mathematically to be the number of bags of cement in 1 meter cube of what concrete. However, if you get on site, mathematical calculation is not the same thing as reality because there may be wastage, there may be spillage, and all of those conditions. So because of that, I'm mixing 7 bags based on what I've seen. Right? Some people use 6.5. So it depends on what you want, and that's why this aspect is customizable. And this is very, very critical because whatever you have in your consumption and composition library is what your rate analysis, your material schedule, and your labor schedule will calculate based on. So get this right. This is the labor database. What is the labor database? Labor database give you the cost of your labor per work. How much will it cost to for a gang of labor per day, and what is their productivity per day? You have to get it fixed. All right. Okay. So let's say to mix for a concrete mix of 1:4:8, if you hire a labor gang, right, per day, maybe all of them with their machine, their laborers will cost on 5,000 naira. And what is the output per day? So once you get all these right, according to maybe what you've seen on site and your realities, you fix them in, it goes for all items of work, then you are good to go. Then your plan database, what does your plan database do? Your plan database will tell you what materials or equipment you need at the execution of your contract or your project, as the case may be. So, like concrete mixer, 40,000 naira per day. And what is the productivity per day for that concrete mixer? You get it fixed in, everything is done. Same thing with your excavator, your so all the equipment that you'll be needing. And one thing about this is that this system is expandable. What I mean by that, let's say you're working on the civil works or even on the building construction, and the specific item of work that you need is not captured here. It is expandable in the sense that you can add it. I will make a separate video and explain that. Then your bill of quantity. This is where you have your material and labor schedule. For example, based on your material database, your labor database, and your commercial library, you want to prepare your material schedule and your labor schedule. Now you come here and you select. This is a drop down menu. You don't write directly. You select from whatever is in your material database, your commercial library, and your labor database. So if you want to add another aspect of work, you have to go back and add it from there. So let's say a concrete mix of 1:4:8 now. What is the quantity? 15 meter cube. You can see it gives your material cost, your labor cost, required number of days based on productivity, your plant cost, your direct cost, and all of that, right? Remember, we have an overview here, which is the wastage and overhead profit. If you don't want this to be included, you can as well put them to zero, and they won't have effect on what you're calculating. So high as your overhead and profit is what is adjustable here. So when you come to material database, What we just calculated, right, shows here. And what is that? Your concrete. To tell you that you need 300 bags of cement, and this is the cost of it. As simple and as direct as that. And what is the conversion element? Your cement will be 200 bags, your sharp sand will be what, 25 meter cube, then your water will be needing 8,000. This is the price of all your materials, the price of your material according to what you've given to the system in your composition library, your material database, and all of that. Then your labor database calculate as well. You can see as far as we've done that, your labor database calculates the same way. All right. So your rate analysis now, how do you do your rate analysis? Your rate analysis, let's say you want to calculate the rate for your maybe concrete 1:2 to 4. What's your rate? Same way, your wastage, overhead, profit, it's all editable, right? So just come here. All you need to do is just to put whatever you need and it auto calculate. You don't need to do anything here. The only thing to do, let's assume that the price of cement has changed and you need to come and or to update your rates. Just come to material database and look for the price of cement, right? Let's say it's now 20,000, but God forbid you never get to that. We might get there because back then cement was as low as 3,500, 5,000. So, but before we get there, let's assume it's now 20,000 naira. Coming here, automatically it updates itself, right? So all you need to do when your rate changes, you go back to your material database and update those prices, come back to your rate, pick whatever you want to pick, and the rate auto calculate immediately. So let's say, for example, remember when it was 10,000 naira, our rate was around 157,000, including all the wastage, overhead, and profit, right? Now the price of cement have gone to 20,000. Imagine you didn't update your rate. You still be using that 157,000. Whereas it should be what, 246. So these are the reason why you need to have a system that catches whatever happened at each point in time. So with this, I believe that you can update because it goes for all items of work. So once you get this, you can be able to do all items of work. Now, like I said, I'm going to make a special video to explain how to add other items that are not currently in this for the sake of peculiarities or projects. Let's assume you're working on the civil construction now and you need to, let's say, bridges, road, and all of that. I need to put some certain item of work that is not currently in this system. I'm going to make a special video that will tell you how to do it. All right. Then also for your consumptions and yes, your consumption and recipe library. If you need a specified or maybe the standard of all the items of work, their output, maybe how, like for example, blocks of how many, what is the standard number of blocks that go into 1 meter square, is 10, all of that. I can make it available for you on request. So you just need to request for that and I'll make all that available. However, ensure that you have all of these filled in accurately before you proceed. So as your material schedule, your productivity and everything will be intact. So if you have any questions, slide on my DM and ask and I'll be there to answer your questions. Thank you once more for subscribing.